Hello dudes and lady dudes. Today we're going to be talking about a theory that's relevant for this week, COVID-19. Politicians knew. Now, there's actually a lot of people who are saying this, and then there's a lot of saying they should have known. But here's what we do know. Back in January, the U.S. House of Congress, I was going to say Commons, but that's us, they were told to put together a bill to combat Corona. And they didn't. They didn't until 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Like middle of March. Second week of March maybe. I forget. Look it up. Where Pelosi tried to squeeze in abortion. So that's, 3 months from being told, put together, until it's actually here. Trump actually banned travel from China. He put together the Corona Task Force back in January. But that was it. So maybe, we won't say politicians, maybe Democrats, they knew about it. But we'll just look at all the facts here. Now, what we do know is there's some weird videos going around about China telling Italians to hug a Chinese person. And which country was hit the absolute hardest by this thing? Italy! Yes. Very strange. So there's obviously some weirdness going on over there. China with transparency. At first we thought they were being transparent, then we just realized they weren't. Of course, there's tweets back in February of President and Vice President like, hey man, China's actually working with the World Health Organization. This is great. World Health Organization dropped the ball on that because they obviously weren't looking too hard if they thought China was being transparent. Not sure how that's presidents and vice presidents' fault when, they're just saying, hey, who has told us that they're doing good? But they're not. World Health Organization, that is a crack. I was going to say crap shoot, but, crack, it's just crack. That makes sense. So, next, what do we do know? Well, we know at the beginning of kind of the infections coming into the U.S., that groups of infected Chinese people were trying to illegally cross the southern border. Why? This makes no sense. Why would they be flown from China into Mexico and then try walking across the southern border? Of course, which group of people do we know have been on camera admitting they fund people illegally crossing the southern border? Democrats. Politicians. So, the Democrats know in January that this is coming and do nothing. End of February, we start arresting these people who are trying to bring the sickness into the U.S. Well, we, not we, them, because I'm up here and not down there. Is there a connection? Look at what's being enacted. Okay, so now that we finally got Corona, it's a thing, it's on mainstream, and you got the media hyping it up. Before the first death of coronavirus, there was already 10,000 more hours of media behind it than all of swine flu. Affected 60 million people. I forget the final death numbers, but 100,000, whatever it was. Already 10,000 hours before one person had died in the U.S. So there's a lot of hype behind it. Where does the hype from? From the media. Where does the media get their marching orders from? The left. Democrats. So we have Democrats ignoring the threat. Democrats, people, sickness using Democrat-funded routes into the country illegally. Democrat propaganda machine pumping out, hey, this is scary. When so far there was really no reason to fear it. So yeah, why though? Well, what have we done as countries? Both us up here and y'all down there. You have shut down far more than what any reasonable scientist looking at the numbers said would be needed. And you say, well, John, we gotta flatten the curve and slow the spread and blah, 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 blah. Look at Sweden, look at South Korea, point and take. Sweden has our rate of infections. South Korea has the U.S. rate of infections. They have only isolated the sick and vulnerable, and they are doing better than we are. And their economy's not shut down. So, no, all that blah, blah, blah. For every life we save by going from isolating sick and vulnerable to isolating everyone, we are probably going to lose at least 2 lives to suicide. Just between the anxiety, the depression, and the extreme economic hardships that are coming for people. That's the way it is. Um, don't believe me? Let's watch peak suicide numbers. All right. So, but still, the disease, like, and they still got to pump up disease everywhere. People are chiming in. Hi, I'm a nurse. I'm a doctor. I'm an EMT. And when we find someone who's dead, we do a corona test on them, even though we know that they died of a heart attack, even though they stroked out, even though we know we died from this. But if they test positive, it's being included in the corona numbers as a corona death. These people, they were not symptomatic at all, but they're now a corona death. This is all over the country. On Facebook, just if you don't believe me, just go on these sites that still let you kind of openly talk about corona. All over them. Alright? They're there. It's like, John, those are just crazy internet people. Yeah, what do you think John is? Seriously. The fact that this is, and we have apparently numbers from overseas, or people are talking about this too in other countries, where far more blatant uh, injury types, like physical injuries, suicides are even being labeled as corona deaths. So they're trying to inflate the numbers. Yeah, John believes it, because why? This is the important part of the video, the why they are doing this. Martial law, shutting things down, destroying the. Remember, we have. I'll just pause here. Dramatic effect. Bill Murray. Yeah. Anyway, boom or boom, whichever side of the screen I put it on. He wants the economy to tank because then they can just stick it to Trump. Other ones here. Ooh, green people. We want the economy to tank. We want people to be forced to stay at home because green control. We had an environmental dictatorship meeting of how Canada can instill a temporary dictatorship to enforce environmental laws last year. Same thing's going around the world. The UN is trying to impose that on other countries. And here we have proof of them openly admitting we need this to happen. And so what do? They manufacture what would have been a normal-ish outbreak of a new disease into and conservatives are buying a hook, line, and sinker. And they'll do nothing about it. So that was John's thought. That's his theory for today. And yeah. Think of it what you will. Wash your hands though. That's gross. Like, seriously.